Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. Margaret Izard, an award-winning historical fantasy and paranormal romance author, has dedicated her life to the arts, spanning dance, theater, and writing. Known for her compelling narratives and passionate love scenes, her novel blend romance, drama, and fantasy. Margaret lives in Houston, Texas with her husband and adult triplets. She loves connecting with readers and infusing her tales with heartfelt emotion. That's beautiful, Margaret. It's so nice to meet you.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you too, Gina.
Yeah, so I'm excited about your book, your first part of your series that just came out in March called Stone of Love.
Mhm.
Margaret, can you go ahead and just start telling us what inspired you to write this story?
Well, I've always wanted to write. I started writing in my 30s. I'm a bit older than that now, but I started writing in my 30s. I've been in performing arts all my life, telling stories in different ways, whether it's dance, theater. I didn't delve into writing until I got a little bit older. I tutored my kids through school. I have 26-year-old triplets, and I tutored them all through school. And right as we came out of the pandemic, I just kind of decided, if there's ever going to be a time in my life that I'm going to write, this will be the time. And I felt that I was really kind of, emotionally ready, mature enough to do it. I don't think in my 30s I was mature enough. I wrote a lot of things in my 30s and trashed them. I didn't, I didn't think that they were ready for anyone to read. So probably about, 4 years ago, I started sitting down and thinking, I'm really going to do this. And I started researching because I'm researching places in Scotland. I wanted my series based in Scotland. I wanted it based at a specific location. So I researched different castles. And when I found out that the coronation stone, which is actually the stone that the king sits on in order to be crowned, and the queen sat on it and her father before, and this goes all the way back until the 16th century, but the coronation stone had traveled through Dunstafnage Castle, which is located outside of Oban, Scotland. Which is Oban is kind of considered the gateway to the Western Isles of Scotland, and considered one of the Viking capitals during the Viking era. And so I decided, I just kind of looked at the stone and that everyone believes is magic, and I've been to Scotland. I've seen the stone. It's just a big giant rock that you sit on. It's about the size of a chair seat. But it's a lot of people have a lot of beliefs around it. And so it just kind of inspired this concept of, what if the stone was magic? And what if there were many stones that were magic? And so I came up with this concept of the fairies and the fae of Scotland and blending those folklore stories from the fae in Scotland into modern day romance centered around the concept that we have these magic stones and their magic is powered by human emotions and will. So their will and their emotion. And so the first three, the good stones, there's good stones and bad stones. There's hope, love, and faith. And then there's fear, doubt, and lust. And the six come together to show the stone of destiny. And so the seven stones create seven books within the series with three Christmas companion books.
That is amazing and sounds so exciting because I just told you early before I hit record that I love all things fantasy, paranormal, especially because I experience it all the time. And and I love romance, especially as a little girl. You wouldn't think little girls should be thinking about romance, but we start thinking about our wedding, and we start thinking about what kind of man we're going to be marrying, the Prince Charming. I guess we all see it in Disney movies too, the princess with the prince and everything. So that's super exciting. Now, talking about the character Brielle de Volt, I hope I pronounced that correctly.
You did.
Yeah, oh, good. Has a compelling journey of healing and discovery, which, of course, we always talk about on this podcast. What drew you to write about her experiences with the renovation of Laird Colin McDougall's chapel?
Brielle travels to the United States. Travels from the United States to Scotland with an opportunity to renovate the chapel. She was actually handpicked by Colin's mother and was selected by her in order to do what they consider the mother's pet project, that she wanted this chapel renovated. The chapel in the woods is actually a real building. It is a ruin on Dunstafnage's property now. There's a lot of history and lore, a very tumultuous past involving both the buildings. But the chapel itself was a really large part of why I picked the property, because it had so much history involved in it. And it was considered one of the most beautiful privately built chapels in all of Scotland. It served as a private chapel to the family, and as they, after going through the revolution, it fell into ruin, which is part of the story and the history of the building itself. In the book, the castle itself is not a ruin. It's been maintained by the family. The chapel did fall into ruin. She's there to renovate it. Her journey revolves around the fact that she's recovering from an abusive relationship. So her mentor, that's been her college professor, has encouraged her to go to his friend. He's old friends with Colin's mom, and go and do the chapel. Prior to her arriving, they've all made the arrangements. They've met. Prior to her arriving, Colin's parents are tragically killed in an accident. So by the time she arrives, Colin's parents have passed, and Colin is newly gained the lordship. And so he finds himself suddenly in charge of, involved and in charge of a project that he had no plans of being involved in. And he's called to the castle in order to welcome her and to tend to this project. And that's when he meets her. And so initially he doesn't want to be at the castle. He doesn't want to be there. But upon meeting her, he decides he's going to stay around for a while. So and that's kind of where we start the story and where we take off from there. But Brielle's journey is she's recovering from an abusive relationship. She doesn't believe in herself again, and believe in herself anymore. She needs to believe in herself again through the journey and through this book, and through her relationship with Colin. The way that I like to describe it is that, Colin shows her the best parts of herself. Yes. Through their discovery and as they discover their love. So it is a time travel romance. So we do little time hopping. I won't spoil the book, but there is a little time hopping. Basically, I can let you know that Colin travels in the past and Brielle trips into the past. So it's a fun romance.
Now, have you ever experienced any time travel yourself by chance?
No, not time travel. No. No. I have had paranormal experiences, but yes. Personally, no, I've not. I have felt what's felt like time travel.
Right.
We travel between, I've traveled to Scotland. That's those time changes and doing something so dramatic, where it's just, you're suddenly, 12 hours difference. It is very different. And we traveled a year ago is when we went for about 3 weeks, and Scotland's very interesting in the summer because it's located so far north on the globe that in the summer, the sun doesn't set until 10:30. And it rises at 3:34 in the morning. So you only get 3 or 4 hours of darkness at night. And so, when we were flying in, it was very surreal because I didn't expect that. And when we flew into Glasgow, and the sun was setting and it was 10:30 at night. And it was the most gorgeous sight because we were flying and it was right by the sunset. It was beautiful. It was purple and warm oranges and yellows, and it faded. And it was just, you're on an airplane and it's just gorgeous because you're even with it. And it was just absolutely beautiful, but it was a little freaky because it was 10:30 at night. So the Texas girl's not used to that.
Don't tell me about it. But like a vanilla sky-ish kind of look, beautiful and so serene. So Scotland is a place that my husband wants to take me to. When he went to Europe, I'm not sure if he said he went there or not. This because we're kind of newly married, not newly married, we've been married since 2020. But he says it's absolutely beautiful. He's like, I want to take you there so bad. I'm like, well, wait, what are you waiting for? Let's go.
Right. What are you waiting for? Yeah, we started in Glasgow, and we were with a tour group. We started in Glasgow and we looped on. We kind of went through the countryside, went on up into the Cairngorms, and finished in Edinburgh. And we arrived, we did a couple days early, a couple days late, then with the tour group. And that was actually kind of fun because, once you get your feet on the ground and you really kind of get looking around and interacting with the locals, they're incredible people. They love talking about their land. They love talking about their heritage, their history. When I started talking to locals, and at the time this was, a year ago. And so I had I pitched the book and found a publisher and had started going through edits of the first book. And it was, it came out in print in March, but a year ago I was still going through the processes of this. So even starting to talk to some Scottish people about, I've got, I'm including these fairies, these fae. And the fae that I'm including and the folklore stories that are included are part of their history. They're real. They're not. I didn't make them up. The Truitha de Danann and the Foramore fae. These are all old Irish tales that the immigrants from Ireland brought into Scotland. So these are all part of their cultural and history. And so when I talk about this and how I incorporated it into a modern day romance, a lot of these people are like, wow, I really would like to read that, because it's all their childhood stories wrapped into something modern. And so but you definitely should have to go see it. I would do not miss Oban, Scotland. It's a little port town, but they call it the gateway to the Isles. And it is a great stopping point to where you can stay in Oban, and then you can jump on a number of ferries and boats, and you can hit all these beautiful Western Isles along the western coast of Scotland. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. We stayed on a hotel right on the waterfront. We ate dinner staring at a sunset. It was incredible.
Okay, I'm gonna have to tell and remind my husband, say, hey, remember that time you said you want to take me to Scotland? Well, I'm even more inspired now after talking to Margaret. So he's gonna have to take me. But going back to the paranormal, because I just told you, I mean, I'm into the paranormal stuff because I've experienced it since I was a little baby. That was my first memory, by the way. It was something magical. Like I had ravens in my crib with me. So very interesting stuff. But you've actually had some profound paranormal experiences yourself, especially related to your deceased relatives. Can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about these encounters and how they've actually impacted your personal beliefs or your writing?
Well, the one I know that you're referring to is when I first bought the triplets home, and it was a bit to bring them home. They were born early. They did spend time in a neonatal ICU unit. And when you have multiples, at least I know when you have three, they don't let you bring all three home at once. And once you've been in a NIC unit, you have to kind of pass this test. You have to change the diaper and take the temperature, and you have to and the nurse stands there with a clipboard grading you, like, can you take care of your kid? And it's like, yeah, I can take care of it. But they had to come home like days apart to ensure that the parents could handle one and then two and then three. So it was a big thing when the third one got home, because it was this final journey of, now we're home. Now we're here, because it went, I think it was 4 or 5 and 6 weeks. They came home a week apart. So, it took 6 weeks from birth, even though they were born early, they were born at 32 weeks, but, it took time to get them home. So that was a big part of the journey. So once I got them home, they were in separate cribs, but we were all in the same room. And I was going from one to the other, and I was getting them ready for bed. And I just had this sense that there were, that like relatives had shown up, and they were all the deceased ones, and they're looking over my shoulder. Oh, look, and it was just this feeling. And I couldn't, it's not that I could hear them. It's just a feeling. And it was like someone was going, oh, she's got my nose, or, oh, look, he's so cute. Or, and it was just this sense of they're there and they're with you and they approve of it. And it's just, it was like they were wrapped around me. No matter where I went, they were there. And so it was very comforting, very, very comforting, very moving. So it was by far, I think, I always get verklempt, but it was one of the strongest experiences I had, because I've always had great relationships with the animals, always been able to communicate well with the animals, always had different feelings with different rooms. I don't know if you've ever had that, where you've like gone into a home and you get a weird feeling about it.
Oh yeah.
Like you go somewhere and you're like, okay, this place is not cool. This place, you walk into a room and you're just like, this has some real negative energy, and I especially this last time, it was probably like 13 years ago, we were shopping for homes. And I remember going into a home that's in my subdivision that I know the people who live there now. But I remember going to that home going, this place is, I had a hard time being there. I had a hard time standing in different rooms, and I would move different, and it's a huge home, and I would move to different rooms and kind of be like, and then there was one room that I was like, I can't even walk into that room. And the place was empty. It had no furniture. But you just get, I don't know if it's auras or senses, but everything always comes across as feelings. And so, and some things are very It's like, don't go do this. There's a feeling that strongly tells you just don't do that. And it's stronger than that inner voice, that's the belief system that you have. There's something stronger than that saying, yeah, just don't do that. And so the experience with the kids and coming home, that was just very overwhelming. It was very strong. So that's kind of why I mentioned this, because it's like, wow, these things, for some people, some people are tuned into it, some people aren't, some people don't listen. And it's almost like you have to listen to feel, and you have to, I don't know if it's, you have to be receptive, or you just have to be able to be cognizant that power's there. Does that, I mean, you've had experiences
Oh
like that. So I
yeah.
think for
I
but
totally
it's almost like
understand
you have
that.
to listen.
Oh
Huh?
yeah. Oh, I said I totally understand what you're saying. Like I could go
Yeah.
anywhere and be like, heck, I can just drive on the freeway and I'm like, I already know what each person is experiencing in their life. I'm like, I don't want this on me. I don't want this on me.
Yeah.
And same thing with rooms. I remember we were going shopping, house shopping with my mom when I was maybe 14 or so. And we would go to these different homes, and then her and I would both sense, oh, no, this isn't the right house. Not this one. And then we went to the one which she still lives in now. And we're like, yes, this is the just right. This is the one. You feel it. You feel that energy there, whether it's a yay or nay, you feel it. So
Right.
this one is a house that she still has with her husband, and I love it. We still go swimming. We bring her grandkids, my kids, over there. We go swimming, and it's just like a family house. And thanks for sharing that story, by the way. I know, like the
Yeah.
NICU, I experienced that with my youngest son. He's 8 now,
Mhm.
but just having to bring them home is just amazing. And then bringing the last baby home, oh, it just makes me all like giddy and excited because I know that feeling. And just having that love and that presence there surrounding you.
Mhm.
Oh, what an amazing feeling. Like I can already feel that feeling right now. It feels like very love, like warm, warm. Oh, I love it.
Yes. It's
Very
like an
warm.
embrace. It was, but it wasn't one person. It was a group. It was a group of people. It was probably, I venture to guess anywhere from 5 to 7, if I had to put a number on it. But it was just this group of people that were just there. It was just, they were just there for you. And oh yeah, it's lovely. You know.
It's a beautiful thing. Now you actually danced. Is that correct?
Yeah, just a little. No, I started dancing at 3. I was a child that was extremely movement. I moved everywhere. And once I started taking dance class, it's just I just didn't want to stop. I took gymnastics too. I used to stand on my head in the living room until I'd pass out. Just yeah, just I dance, put the parents' record player on and dance in the living room. And but I started dancing at 3. I kept continuing dancing, taking different dance lessons, whatnot, involved in recitals in the studio. And by the time I hit junior high, I was in a nonprofit performing arts company. By the time I hit high school, I attended a performing and visual arts high school, an arts magnet school here in Houston. A lot of people compare it to the show Fame, because Fame was actually written from the New York Performing Arts School, from interviews from students there. So same program, but here in Houston, and it's still in existence. It's called the Kinder High School for Performing and Visual Arts, and part of Houston Independent School District and the Arts Magnet System in the state of Texas. And I graduated there in 19. But
You're so cute.
but I already told you my kids were 26. So, but I graduated in the mid 80s. I went on to study in college, finished my diploma, went on while I was in college, I danced professionally for a ballet company in Dallas. I danced in a nonprofit company in Denton when I was at Texas Women's University. Went on and continued dancing after school, and continued dancing all the way up until I had the kids. Shortly after I had the kids and I went back into dancing, I had some back problems and had back surgery where I had ended up damaging through carrying the triplets and then trying to get back into dancing without having all my muscles all back in gear again after having, 12 pounds of baby, because the day they were born, it was a total of 12 pounds of baby. And I think the morning before they were born, I was 210 pounds. And the following morning, I was 135 pounds. So that was it was
Wow.
quite a, yeah, it was quite a challenge. And, at the time they were born, I was anemic, because I couldn't keep up with, providing nutrients. My body couldn't keep up providing nutrients for them. But, after coming out of the triplets, I had a hard time getting back into dancing. So I had a major back surgery, major back injury, but I still dance off and on. I'm just a little bit older and can't quite do as much as I used to, but I still do some.
Yeah, dance is therapy too. Oh man, I tell you, whenever I'm feeling down, I go out and just move my body to my favorite song, tune that frequency, move my body, and then I'm just happier.
It is. It's therapy. It's what I've done for most of my life in order to relax, in order to help my concentration. It is an outlet for my creative juices that, and so it only makes sense that, once I'm not capable of doing everything that I used to be able to when I was much younger, it made sense that writing would become something that would be the creative outlet for me, that would be something that I could share my creativeness with the world, and have that energy and those thoughts and ideas come pouring out. And it's interesting, because once I really decided this is what I want to do, I'm going to do this. And I when I first started saying I'm going to do this very seriously, I spent about 4 months in workshops before I wrote a single word.
Oh,
I took
wow.
workshops that, because I'm like, I've got to learn how to do this right. There's a craft to writing, there's an art to storytelling, and I'm a great storyteller, but I had to learn how to write, and I had to learn how to write well. And even after I drafted the first book, I still had to go back and learn how to write. So it took a bit, and I'm still very determined. But the interesting thing is that once I've decided this is what I'm going to do, it's like I have so many stories to tell. I have so many things to say, and it's pouring out of me. That the first series is 7 books. I wrote the first 3, and continued working on the first one. After writing the first 3, I worked on the first one just so I could get it into a publisher's hands, because I wanted a traditional publisher, and get it to a place that it was good enough that a publisher would consider taking it. And then, after that, I had to go back and work on book 2 and book 3. And, book 2 is coming out tomorrow. Book 3 is coming out in October, which is, the first book is Stone of Love. The second book is Stone of Fear. Comes out tomorrow. It's on pre-order now. Stone of Lust is the third one. That comes out October 21st. And then, like I said, the Christmas companion book, which is Thistle and the Mistletoe, comes out November 4th. But I've already drafted book 4, 5, and 6, and I'm currently writing book 7.
Wow.
And the second Christmas book is already written. I've just got one more Christmas book, and then that wraps up the series. The interesting thing is I've got a whole nother series after this. When I wrote a backstory in the first book, just to put something together, this backstory of, where did the stones come from and why are they with the humans? I had to answer that question. And so when I wrote that portion of the story, that's probably 3 paragraphs in a dream sequence. It's a dream sequence Colin has. He goes to the Fey realm in a dream. He finds out and learns about why he has to be the guardian of these stones and why it's important. And he's like in a dream sequence, he's a bystander to a scene in the Fey realm. And in it, there's some shapeshifter dragons. So there's men that shapeshift into dragons. And the whole story as to why, what happened with the magic stones then. And so once I wrote the scene, all 3 and that part of the story is only 3 paragraphs. I walked away from it going, man, I've got a whole nother series. So after this one, there's a whole nother series that are Fae, they're fairy men, and they're shape-shifting dragons. And so that's also very exciting. And actually the first 3 books are already finished in that. So it's just, once I decided that I wanted to write, it's like it's all come pouring out. There's so much I want to share.
That's amazing. Oh, I feel like we have some shape-shifting dragons here on Earth already with us. That's another podcast. Anyway, with the wealth of experiences from dance to writing and parenting, what advice would you actually give to others who might be struggling to balance their passions with their personal life?
Well, no, I have some great advice. It's just, the is where do I begin? Where do I begin explaining this and explaining how this works? Um, every situation that my husband and I have been faced with, we've been married 31 years this year. And, with the triplets, we didn't have kids until we were married 5 years. I struggled getting pregnant. We had the triplets. We've had to raise these kids. Now we're older, have grown kids, and it's still, it's still another part of our lives, but everything that we've come to face, we've had to adapt. And I think that in how you adapt and how you approach that is how you overcome. When the kids were very young, people have asked us, how did you cope? And when they were very, very young, once we could get two of them sleeping through the night and there was only one to feed, we rotated where, Mondays and Wednesdays were my night and Tuesdays and Thursdays were his night. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we just kind of took turns depending upon what was going on. But, we called it hobby nights. And so that person could not be responsible for taking care of the kids and go do their hobby so that they could still have some kind of sanity in their lives. And that's how we got through them when they were dealing with the kids when they were very young. And, people ask, how it must have been hard. How'd you do it? And it's like, well, the best analogy I can come up with, and this is, it relates to a lot of people in Houston because Houston is such a large place and people commute for over an hour sometimes.
Oh, wow.
Over an hour to work, over an hour from work. That's 2.5 hours a day. That's a lot.
It is.
And you don't realize, and I've done it. You don't realize how hard it is while you're doing it because you're like, okay, fine. I got an hour drive to work. I can listen to this podcast. I can listen to this music. I can listen to this radio show. You find coping mechanisms in order to help you deal with what you're facing at that time. And it becomes comfortable, becomes something you almost look forward to. It's your private time, it's your quiet time. You find your coping mechanisms in order to help you overcome. That is what you have to do because once you stop commuting, you look back and you're like, wow, I can't believe I did that. That could have been hard, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. And, that's it. That's, you have to find time. You have to cope. If you're going to write or you're going to do any kind of major project like writing a book and publishing a book, you have to make time. A lot of people are like, oh, I'd really like to write a book, but I just don't have time right now. I sat down and told my family, hey guys, guess what? I'm doing this. And it took 3 months for them to adjust. It took 3 months for them to adjust to the fact that I'm going to go sit somewhere and work and I can't be there beck and call mom. Because I haven't worked probably for about 14, 15 years. I haven't worked a job. I've worked as a mom. I've tutored my kids. I've been the executive of this home. I've been the chief executive of my home. I've worked, but I haven't worked a job. And, for me to not be available to my family 24/7 was a big adjustment for them. And you've got to make time. And you got to find coping mechanisms. And when the bad things happen, you got to smile and laugh. There were some times when the kids were young, I'd look at them and go, oh, is this what we're doing today? This is how we're doing it. It's like, it's a day we're all crying. Yay. It's kind of, it's, you just cope. You find time to cope and you deal and you move on and you just have to laugh at life. You have to laugh at life. I mean, when we found out it was triplets, we were laughing because it's like, this is what we get for trying so hard. This is, because I had problems getting pregnant. And so, I had a couple surgeries, we worked hard to do it. I didn't have to do fertility, but, it was work. And it was so funny because it was like, this is what you get when you work hard, you get 3 times as much reward, so it was a joke. And so that's kind of how my husband and I deal with everything. You have to laugh at the hard times. You have to be happy with the great times, and you have to find ways to deal with things and cope.
I love that. Yes. I laugh at everything. Like even if people are like, why are you laughing so much? Well, would you rather be me scolding and being angry? So I laugh. I
Right.
mean, that's just my personality anyway. And I think it goes, my mom does the same thing. Her mom did the same. I think it's just was who we are. We're smiling, giggly, and laughing.
Right.
Yeah, and if you're not having fun, then you're not doing it right. So you have to make it fun. And I love the fact that you brought up the podcast. And speaking of books and listening to books, are your books going to be audio version as well?
Not yet. That my publisher does not do audio versions. It's actually up to the writer if they want to make that type of investment. It's certainly something that I'd really love to do for the future. But right now, I want to get through the series, at least the first series, before I look at doing something like that. It is an investment for a writer to do because my publisher does not provide for it. They will publish it and they will help me, but as far as producing the actual audio clips, finding the right voiceover, it would be an undertaking. Plus, there's a lot of Gaelic in my books, and you cannot pronounce Gaelic phonetically. It does, that's not the way it's pronounced. So it would be, for someone to do an audio version of my books, it would be a rare voiceover person that I'd have to hunt for.
Yeah.
So I'd love to have all the books in audio version, but it's something for the future.
That's awesome. Yeah, that'd be awesome for a road trip, for me driving. I said I live in California, driving from here to like LA. Be like, let's listen to Margaret's books. It'd be fun. I love getting into adventure, and like I told you, I love fantasy. My husband's just now starting to get into fantasy because I'm the one playing all of those movies. It's just fun. I really enjoy them, and I appreciate the work that you're doing. But how can our listeners go ahead and find you and get your books?
Sure. Actually, you can find me at my website, which is margaretizardauthor.com. So that's MargaretIzard author.com. All of my social media handles are Mizard Author, which is MIZARD author. So you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Wild Rose Press is actually my publisher. So you can also find my books at wildrosepress.com. But you can, all major retailers, online retailers carry my books. So not only Amazon, but Barnes and Nobles, Google Books, YouTube, trying to remember some of the others. There's quite a few, but if you go to wildrosepress.com, you look under my name, under the author section, you can find all my books there, and they have links to every online retailer that carries them. They're sold in ebooks, and then they're done print on demand. So meaning that if you order a print book, it'll take about 2 or 3 weeks, but they'll turn it over for you.
Oh, wow. It's amazing. And finally, what do you want readers to take away from Colin and Bree's journey in Stone of Love? And what messages or themes do you hope linger with them after turning the final page?
Ooh, true love is the greatest power of all.
I love that. And I love that.
Yeah, that's, true love is the greatest power of all. I think is the greatest, it's a central theme throughout the entire series. Now with Colin and Bree's story, it's, Bree has a recovery arc where she recovers from her abusiveness and becomes, and believes in herself again, which is very interesting because she's a scholar. She's an anthropologist. She's a highly educated woman. She's there to renovate a chapel. She's an expert in building. She understands construction. So she's really this very intelligent woman who's kind of lost her way. And it's kind of that whole theme of, when people tear you down enough, you start believing it. So she's goes through this process and this recovery of that in order to find herself again. And within the process of finding herself, Colin finds himself and as the new Lord, and sort of figures out his place in the world now that he's taken on this new, duty of being Lord of a clan. And because he does have multiple properties, he does have a family to lead, clan to lead in Scotland. And even in modern days, they still, there's still responsibilities a Lord of a clan has. And so he has to navigate that and figure out how he's going to do that. He's a lawyer. They call him solicitors in Scotland. So he also has, he works for a law firm. So he has to navigate those things and all of his responsibilities. But he's at the beginning of the book, he takes on the guardianship of these magic Iona stones. So he has those responsibilities and has to navigate his way through that. But through all these challenges and these obstacles that are thrown at these two, they still find each other and find love. And how they go about that is quite magical. So I think I want people to, walk away with self-belief, um, faith, and the knowledge that true love is the greatest power of all.
I love that. Yes, thank you.
Sure.
I'm going to make a nice short clip just with you just saying all that. That's
Oh, thank you.
beautiful. Any last words or thoughts, Margaret?
Um, no, I've got my second book that's, today's the 11th, tomorrow's the 12th. Stone of Fear releases tomorrow. It's in pre-order now. Make sure that you get the first book, because you can read the second book without reading the first book, but a lot of my advanced reader copy readers have said they're so much better if you read them in order. But you can read them alone, but it's just so much more enriching experience to read them in order. Like I said, the third book's coming out in October. I'm very excited about that one, Stone of Lust, and it's also a very fun book. I think it's a darker book than the other two. I call it the darkest book in the series, but it certainly is a journey, and I would really like to invite readers into my world of magical realism and the Fae and Scotland, and just come on a journey with me, and let's enjoy our stories together.
Beautiful, Margaret. Well, thank you so much for being on my show today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Gina. I've had a great time.